and they win the NFC South.
We're back. What's good, everybody? Let's talk some Tampa sports. I feel out of my flow, out of my rhythm right now. It's been 11 days since my last video. Got really busy there with Lightning playoffs, Bucs draft, and here we are. We're back, ready to roll. Much needed break for sure, but Bucs rookie minicamp has just finished. Those quick little 3 days in shirt and shorts. I mean, not much you can take out of that. You can say there's some bright spots and, some players looked better than others maybe. Some guys ended up being waived. Some guys ended up being brought on. I mean, that's what rookie minicamp is. You're at a 90-man roster at this point. There's a whole load of tryout players. It's just where you're at this point of the year. So 90-man roster. There's a ton of players to talk about. This video, I will stick to the Bucs draft class and where I see their outlook going into this depth chart of this year. Once again, we're at rookie minicamp. So when I say outlook, like we are looking out. And then in another video this week, I will do the undrafted free agents and do a little bit of an outlook on them, which, of course, maybe 2-ish, 3-ish, potentially making the 53-man, but most of them aiming for that practice squad. And we'll dig into those guys at some point this week as well. All right, so this is an estimation of the Buccaneers depth chart at this point, obviously. And there's 83 people on this depth chart currently. Yes, I did count all of them. And it's a lot of names. And a lot of, unfortunately, probably pretty solid players that will have to end up being cut. But we will go through, starting with Emeka right here, and look at where they have them. Look at where we think they will end up right now. They have Emeka right there with Evans and Godwin as the starters, we'll call it. Obviously, different formations, different packages will have more or less receivers on the field, but starter is where they have him with Jalen McMillan at that 4 spot. I think they're going to be pretty interchangeable. I don't think they're too different of players. So that 3-4 spot, that's really what I think either of them will fall in. And just sticking with this, because this is where more of the conversation is, sticking at that wide receiver spot, it goes Sterling Shepard, Ryan Miller, Trey Palmer, then Tez Johnson, then Raheem Jarrett, then Cameron Johnson, and then a couple of undrafted guys. If we're going to say they're going to keep 6 receivers on the team, there's 3 players ahead of Tez Johnson on this depth chart. How's he getting to that 6th spot? Ryan Miller, I think I could see him as a practice squad guy. I think he did an okay job coming in when Godwin and Evans were hurt, but it's not like he consistently played well over those 4 or so games. He did have that touchdown in Kansas City, but he wasn't making consistent plays, nearing 100 yards. But at one point, him and Sterling Shepard, believe it or not, were our starting receivers. That's insane. Speaking of Sterling Shepard, he had his ups and downs of last year. You think he provided some decent veteran experience, made some big plays here and there, but also some boneheaded plays that really the Bucs could have done without from a guy who is a veteran in this league. It's just unnecessary, and you're supposed to be the leader. You're supposed to be someone who a Ryan Miller, a Trey Palmer, a Raheem Jarrett can follow in the footsteps of when a Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is out. Fortunately, I don't think we got that. And I know he's Baker's guy. Baker's going to have to do a lot of persuading and convincing, in my opinion, this offseason to keep him on this 53-man roster. Obviously, we haven't seen Tez Johnson yet, but if he is what he is made out to be, that Bucky Irving, but at receiver, able to break a ton of tackles, extremely elusive, not the super fast sprint speed, but just that on-field speed, being able to escape guys. I mean, that's a weapon. That is a weapon that I think would deserve to be on the 53-man roster if he does show that during OTAs and training camp. So then that leaves you with one more spot between Trey Palmer, Raheem Jarrett, Cameron Johnson, or an undrafted guy. Who knows? So that's pretty much just the outlook there. Obviously, Ibuka is going to be on the field a ton, especially if they're going to let him take his time to come back. It's possible. They said Godwin's injury was not a reason for them picking Ibuka, but it is a benefit, it is an effect of them picking Ibuka. Now they can take their time with Godwin's injury, if that makes sense. Let's go down to those cornerbacks. So they have Jamel Dean as a starter and Zion McCollum as a starter, and then Tyke Smith as the nickel starter. Oh my God. Seeing Rashad Wisdom, I'm sorry. No shade, no disrespect, but seeing Rashad Wisdom, a undrafted free agent out of, where was Georgia State, maybe UTSA. I knew it was some Group of 5 team. As your starter on this depth chart is crazy. Obviously, we know Tyke Smith is going to be spending a lot more time back there with Antoine Winfield Jr., so Rashad Wisdom is not the penciled-in starter like this says. But there could be some potential there. J.J. Roberts is a name that we'll get into later on in the week in our undrafted free agent video that I do like. But sticking to the corners, Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, they have listed as your starters. Behind them, behind Zion, you have Tariq Funderburk. I don't think that experiment went very well last year. Behind Jamel Dean, you have our second-round pick, Benjamin Morrison. Then it goes Bryce Hall, re-signing him on a one-year deal after blowing up his knee in the first game of the season last year against the Commanders. And then we have Josh Hayes. Let's hope he can stick to being a gunner this year. Behind that, you have an undrafted free agent, and then Kendall Vildor, a free agent that the Bucs did bring in during the offseason. The depth is better. Because last year it was Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, and then Bryce Hall was that third guy coming off the bench. Obviously, that didn't happen because he got injured in that first game. So then it fell to Funderburk, Josh Hayes, and yeah, we know how that went. So now you have McCollum, Dean, and then Benjamin Morrison. They have right now listed as that first guy off the bench, but I think all of us could see him playing well enough during training camp, preseason, etc., jumping Jamel Dean and taking that starting job. Am I saying that's going to happen week 1? No. Definitely possible. But at some point of the year, I think we know who Jamel Dean is at this point. At some point, I can see it happening. So ideally, in my head, it would be Benjamin Morrison, Zion McCollum, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith, and then I think the guy you can pencil in most as yep, he's the starter is probably Jacob Parrish. I think they have a ton of confidence in Jacob Parrish. The fact that they did not take a safety in the draft. Obviously, they did bring in some undrafted free agents, but the fact that they did not take a safety in the draft kind of tells you, yeah, Tyke's going to safety with Antoine, and Jacob Parrish, it's you and Christian Izien. Battle it out. And that's putting a lot of confidence in your third-round pick right there. And I like it and I respect it. He is the guy that I will say, shirts and shorts again. 2 interceptions, but had a really good rookie minicamp, impressed a lot of people, and probably being the most talked about player as a result of performance at rookie minicamp. Desmond Watson, Shiloh Sanders, of course, national media, that's where that's going. But Jacob Parrish, performance-wise, on the field, in shirts and shorts, was the best standout of rookie minicamp. All right, so let's finish off with that defensive line. We'll go with the defensive ends first. So starters, Kalijah Cansey and Logan Hall. Then it goes Mike Green, Elijah Roberts, and Nash Hutmacher. I feel like when you say his name, you go, Hutmacher. So Elijah Roberts. I think there's a pretty clear path for him to become the backup to Kalijah Cansey and Logan Hall. I mean, Mike Green, it's not insurmountable for him to pass up Mike Green. He's pretty much just been a depth piece now at this point with the Buccaneers. And hasn't seen much time on the field. If he has, it's been probably cut because of a Elijah Cansey injury. So I think Elijah Roberts can come in and be that backup defensive end to a Elijah Cansey or Logan Hall and add a little bit of depth, because we know Todd Bowles loves to do that hockey line change. And I feel more confident. Yes, I haven't seen him play in the NFL yet, but I think I'd feel more confident seeing him come onto the field than Mike Green, personally, in my opinion. Mike Green, 6'3", 293. I mean, he has good size, just production really has not been there much. Like I said, he really hasn't had much of a chance. And then Elijah Roberts, 6'4", 280. Much more of a Will Golston build than a Elijah Cansey build, that's for sure. And then David Walker, and this is one of the guys that I'm most excited about. I think Ibuka is going to be a star. I think Benjamin Morrison is going to be very consistent, reliable for the Bucs. Something we really haven't been able to have is reliability and a playmaker in the secondary. But David Walker, I'm excited about, just because it's that sleeper. It's that small school guy that Jason Light loves to find the gems, the diamonds in the rough. I think David Walker's that guy. Ahead of him, you have Anthony Nelson and Chris Braswell. Braswell, second-round pick last year, did not have the opportunity, I'll say, to show much last year. Found it very surprising how consistently they continue to play Joe Tryon over Chris Braswell. I think all of us assumed and knew that Joe Tryon wasn't a part of the future of this Bucs defensive line. So I would have liked to see Chris Braswell get opportunity, but I don't know what was going on in that room and why he didn't end up getting that opportunity over a Joe Tryon. Anthony Nelson, I think that's a very solid depth piece. I think we're all fans of him and what he provides, not necessarily as a starting edge guy, but coming in that rotation that Todd Bowles does. I'm happy with it, and every time I do see him come onto the field, I'm not like, oh, Anthony Nelson's on the like, no. He can make some plays. I mean, he played less than Yaya Diaby did and only had half a sack less than him. So he can make some plays in the limited time that he is on the field. So David Walker, where he fits in, we will have to admit, the depth of the edge position is greatly improved because of the signing of Hassan Reddick, the hopeful progression of Chris Braswell, the consistency of Anthony Nelson, and then you have David Walker, Jose Ramirez as like those back pieces. That's pretty damn good. I think we all hope Yaya Diaby can turn those pressures, those tons of pressures that he had last year, into more than 4.5 sacks. I know he believes and thinks that too. It's just finishing the job. Yes, pressures affect the quarterback, but bringing them to the ground, turning a 2nd and 6 to a 3rd and 13, that's really the game-changing plays that we need from Yaya Diaby. And with Hassan Reddick on the other side, maybe we'll get that. But yes, David Walker, I think at this point he is kind of stuck in that depth, and it is to be determined through OTAs, training camp, and preseason where he'll end up on this depth chart. But once again, a guy I'm very excited for. So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. If you disagree or agree with anything I had to say, maybe you think David Walker has the talent, has the skill to be the backup for Yaya Diaby over Anthony Nelson. It's very possible. It is very possible. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Once again, undrafted free agents will be next this week, going into those guys a little bit more. So go Bucs. Y'all have a blessed one.
Hey, hey, Tampa Bay.